everybody. We thank you for joining us in this live today. This is Sharon Adhiambo from Hope to the Vulnerable Communities. And here we are. On Wednesdays, we always have a mental space, greater health session. And today is our session 4. Yes, we are on session 4. So, with me, I have a panel of speakers who they have advanced experience in whatever answer questions they're going to tackle, and I'll just give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. I'll start by Whitney. Yes, Beverly Nicole, you can start with the introduction. I think Whitney has a problem.
Hi, everybody. My name is Beverly Nicole. I'm here from an organization called Educate, where I work as a program officer for Homa Bay. I'm really always excited and looking forward to Wednesdays because of this. Yeah, so thank you, and let's have a wonderful discussion. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Achieng, kindly introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. I hope you're having a lovely afternoon. I know the weather is a bit dramatic. Aria Cheng from Step Up Together organization, the PO. I'm delighted to be part of this live stream. So I hope we'll all engage and learn more. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have other speakers joining us. I think they'll join later. So, as I said, this is our session 4 of the Mental Space Greater Health session. So, on session 3, we actually talked about mental health and our children. Mental health and education. How does the mental health of our children affect their education? And we also talked about where to get help how do you know that your child has a mental illness, or what are some of the early signs that now you as a parent or as a guardian you're supposed now to come in between, or you're supposed to seek for help. So today we have our session 4, which is on legal aspect of mental health. What does the law say about mental health? What are some of the do's and the don'ts in regards to law in mental health? Because we are dealing with people, and if you're dealing with people, you need laws to govern them. So we're going to talk about the Mental Health Act, which talks about the rights of the patients with mental illness and the legal responsibilities of the mental health professionals, because they must have some, how do I call it, the ethics that they need to have when handling the mental patients. If somebody has a mental issue, how is the professional supposed to handle them? What are the care and treatment for these people? What are you supposed to do to them, and what are you not supposed to do to them? So that is our session today. We are so excited. This is so educative. So, on to our first question. And this is our first question is going to be on mental health rights and what to do in case of discrimination. What are the rights? What does the law say? What am I supposed to do to a mental ill person, or what am I not supposed to do to a mental ill person? So I'm going to give this session. I'm going to give this session to Beverly Nicole. Kindly take us through the session.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Hi, guys, once again. I'm going to be tackling the intro about just talking about mental health rights and what this means. And as usual, we'll be using very live examples. So, yeah, keep the questions coming. So, just to start off, I would like us to understand what is mental health rights. So, without Google definition, rights are basically what we're entitled to, every single person. What are those things that, as a human, by simply existing, we are entitled to? And then now, when you bring it to mental health rights, what are some of those things that, as people who have or suffer from mental health issues, are entitled to? So those are what we mean by mental health rights. What are these things that they're entitled to? And just to get into some of them, some of the mental health rights are things like, for instance, there's the right to liberty and autonomy. That means that they have the right to make their own decisions about their lives, and including their treatment. And I think oftentimes when we are in the presence of or dealing with the people who suffer from mental health issues, we easily make assumptions about what they need or what they want or what they're supposed to be getting, without really realizing that despite having a mental health condition, they still have the right to choose, the right to make decisions, and what kind of things they want in their lives, and even the kind of treatment that they get to have. Another mental health right is a right to seclusion and restraint. And what you're talking about is this is the right, that protects them from abuse or from experiencing any form of restraint that could be harmful to them. And again, just as I said, oftentimes we make interesting assumptions on what people suffering from mental health issues have. So these people, every single person having a mental health condition, has a right to be free from all forms of restraint or all forms of abuse. Another mental health right is the right to access to services. And again, this is whereby each and every person has the right to receive any form of services that they want. So, despite having whatever mental health condition, they have the right to walk into a hospital and get treatment. They have the right to walk into a shop. They have the right to walk into a government office and get whatever service they want, whenever they want it and how they want it. And again, as we'll see further, how based on, again, our perceptions and our assumptions about mental health, we often deny them these rights. Another right is access to privacy. And this is very important because being, suffering and having to deal with the mental health issues, they still have the right to privacy, and, looking at it as having the right to disclose, having the right to choose how to, either disclose the information or having the information used or seen or read by any person. So they have that right. So another right is community inclusion, and this, I think, bringing it a bit home into our communities, our societies, we tend to look at mental health issues in an interesting perspective that we'll see ahead. But this right talks about people suffering from mental health issues having the right to live and fully participate and in a community of choice. Yeah. So those are some of the mental health rights that people suffering from mental health issues have. Just to bring it home a bit, how are these violated today? So you find that, let's look at, for instance, community inclusion. And again, as I said, I like to use examples that are very near to me. And when you look at community inclusion, you're looking at how the community often perceives people who suffer from mental health issues. Take, for instance, someone who is bipolar. And I'm choosing bipolar because that is a mental health condition that I've seen people close to me go suffer. And oftentimes, how it's perceived is when they have episodes. It's I'm trying to find the right English words to put this, but they start to bring a lot of superstition into it, and people start being labeled, so and so did this and that to this particular person. And when this person is having the episodes, then it's automatically assumed that they can't do certain things. So if tomorrow, the episode is managed and now you are found running your business or going to the farm or going to school, there are question marks. Are you able to do this? Are you really sure you're able to do this? Can people even trust you the responsibility, So oftentimes you find that they are treated differently in the community. Leave bipolar aside. Look at, people suffering from that level, mental health at the level of even, the ones working in the markets and all that. Oftentimes, how do we perceive them? Most of them, the moment the condition gets out of hand, they move to the towns, they start having to fend for themselves, they start having to live off the streets and the likes. When in real sense, most of them stem from us and how we treat them in our communities. Do we truly integrate them in our communities, or do we treat them differently? So having in mind the right to community inclusion, we tend to violate their rights by not giving them the space to accommodate them and for them to be them. Let us look again at a right like liberty and autonomy. That is, that they can make their own decisions. People who suffer from mental health often are people assume that other people must speak for them. And oftentimes I ask myself, why don't we ever ask these people, what do you want? What do you think? You know, we automatically assume this person is suffering from this, therefore we have to step in and save the day. That is another way that we violate their rights. Another one is privacy. And I think this also a bit is rooted on, not letting them be able to make their own decisions, that it's automatically assumed that because of their situation, because of their conditions, they're not able to make sound decisions, and therefore their business is everywhere. It's unfortunate, because I have interacted with instances whereby even the people supposed to be providing care for people suffering from mental health issues have been, speaking about their issues. And I think this often happens mostly in like situations where people are trying to compete in giving the best information, and then you start hearing very interesting comments. So basically what I'm trying to say is that when you look around us, looking at our African setup, our communities, I come from a rural area, so it's, I see a lot of that, and I talk a lot from a rural perspective, that we tend to make several assumptions on what people suffering from mental health need. When you're talking about seclusion and restraint, that they have the right to be free from all forms of abuse. I mean, we have seen it in the news. We have heard stories. I have seen it around here, whereby you find that people suffering from mental health are still subjected to forms of abuse like sexual abuse. I have seen women suffering from mental health issues still bear babies, be pregnant and bear babies. And then the question comes to mind that how is this even going to be manageable if they're already struggling and they need help and we're not giving them that help? So adding them an extra responsibility, how is that going to look? So, being exposed to abuse, people taking advantage of their situation, that there is another way in which we violate their rights. And another very interesting one is when you look at access to services. Again, based on the assumptions, people often assume, or I don't know why they decide that someone suffering from a mental health condition is not able to even, walk into a government office and just demand for one or two services. It's often about, can they be accompanied? Do you look good enough? Are you presentable enough? Are you this? And let's say they are not presentable enough. I mean, you yourself try walking into a government office without dressing a particular way or looking groomed in a particular way. You're bound to be looked at funny. So add a mental health condition to that. So these perceptions, these assumptions keep on propelling, violation of rights for people suffering from mental health. And, how can we help people who are feeling discriminated? Having known all these rights, having known how these rights are being violated, then how can we help these people who still feel this way? And one of the ways in which I think is important and could help, and just to emphasize this whole thing, is taking personal responsibilities as our own people. I think it's high time that we are able to stand up and shun some of these things in every space that we are. If you know someone who is having these mental health conditions, let us not sit back and watch and take out our cameras. I think we live in a generation whereby the camera is more important than helping someone. So, you could be in a matatu, you could be in a public place, and someone gets an episode. Let us be people. Let us be people who are able to stand up and just help protect this person, try to find out where they're going, try to find out if they're okay, if they're being abused, try to stop it. I'm a very big advocate, so I'm always very loud. I would be one of those people who would shout the loudest when there's an offense happening, especially in a public place. Another way in which how we can help mental health patients who feel discriminated is by having policies in our spaces that protect people with mental health issues. One of these ways is, for instance, and this is just an example, is that an example of a policy that could have sections such as being able to take a break if someone is feeling overwhelmed or cannot be able to, contribute their best, rather than, covering it nicely into you're not able to give output, you're not able to do this, so therefore the next course of action is probably to fire you or get a replacement. So having policies in every spaces that we live in the organization, and I'd like to challenge this organization that, do you have policies that protect people suffering from mental health today? Another way of helping people who feel discriminated is appealing, and this is more like an appeal, is that to mental health care providers, that they should increase their advocacy, their reach, and they should increase you know ways in which they can help these people. I remember there was a case of a DJ. I've forgotten his name. He committed suicide at the offices, and one of his social media posts was about how he needed help, and a session of therapy was going for 6,000 shillings, and he was not able to afford that. So, having reasonable rates, having reasonable and accommodative ways in which we can reach out to people and even enable them to get help is going to be a way in which people suffering from mental health issues are going to get help and even avoid discrimination. And I say this because I know that there are certain mental health issues that are treatable, very, very treatable. I have personally gone to school with people who had bipolar disorders and the likes, and they were on medication and were getting help, and you would never tell. So they had the privilege to be that. So I believe that everyone else with the right condition, with the right environment, with the right treatment, they're all able to access that, and this will help in curbing the feeling of discrimination. So that's all from me from now. If you have any questions, I'm happy to respond. And sorry about that. That's my daughter in the background. So thank you so much. Back to you, Sharon.
Wow, thank you so much, Whitney. And from whatever you've said, I believe maybe, just maybe, we are the ones who have pushed these people with mental illness issues to the extreme, because now we are not giving them the rights that they deserve. We're treating them like, for instance, if somebody today was suffering from depression, somebody is depressed, if it's at work, they will stop giving the person the responsibilities, and over time you just hear the person has been fired. Or maybe if it's at home, there's no right to privacy. We assume they are a risk to themselves, and therefore we want to always be there. We want to make decisions for them. We want to do everything for them. We don't give them an opportunity to even express what they want. And I believe maybe this has pushed them to the end. And now somebody feels, now my rights are infringed. There's nothing, I have no say. There's nothing I can do. So therefore, the only option is suicide. But then we have failed as a nation if we're still not taking into account the rights of these people. They're also human beings, they have rights. There's a way we need to treat them. And I believe if we start doing that, we'll actually have very few cases of the mental situations, because just as Beverly has said, most of them are treatable, but it depends on how you handle these patients. It depends on how you take them through the process. So if you take them through the process very well, they will overcome it. If you don't, they'll resort to suicide. Thank you so much, Beverly and Nicole. So our next presentation is going to be on mental health rights of people living with disabilities. we have these people amongst us. They also have rights. So, what are their rights? What is the rights? What is the rights of the people living with disabilities who are suffering from mental illness? And to this, I will invite Rita. I'll invite Rita to take us through this session.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Rita. Yes, Rita.
Hello. Hi. Hi.
Hi,
Hello.
we are listening. We're hearing you.
Yeah, a bit. My network is a bit shaky.
Can we give you some time?
Yes, please, kindly.
Okay, we'll go to the
Kindly,
next
please.
question on what does the Constitution
Okay.
say on the mental rights? What does the Constitution of Kenya say on the mental health rights? So I'll welcome Whitney to take us through this session.
Kumbe
Hi,
nimefikishwa ya.
Whitney. Can you hear us?
Thank you so much,
Nimefika.
Rita and Sharon, and our previous speaker. Um, in our Constitution of Kenya, we in our Constitution of Kenya we have something that we call policy. And mental health policy is an oversight that is usually given by the government or the health authorities that provide overall direction for mental health by giving a vision, values, principles, objectives, and establishing a broad model for action to achieve that vision. And for these, mental health policy to be achieved, there is a mental health plan that is usually put in place that manages strategic action
I think we've lost Whitney. She has a problem with her network. She'll join us back and talk about her question. So, onto our next session, we're going to talk about the legal pathways in case of violation. What are you supposed to do? What does the law say you're supposed to do if in case your mental health rights are violated? And I'm going to invite our next speaker, Achin from Step Up Together. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes,
Okay,
you are.
so thank you. Looking at the legal pathways in addressing mental health rights violation in Kenya. So basically, we are looking at the right things to do once your mental health rights are violated, because we are in a civilized society. You won't just punch someone because they violated your mental health rights. You will not grab a log or a stone and hit someone because they violated your mental right. That is illegal and so unethical. So this is why we have the mental health policies that were initially developed to promote, to respect and observe mental health rights in Kenya. So when one's mental health right is violated, we are always advised to liaise with the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. Why so? This is because when you look at our constitution, it backs you up once your mental health right is violated. Looking at Chapter 4, the Bill of Rights, the court has jurisdiction to hear determine applications for redress of denial or violation of a right. So basically, your right has been violated. The constitution got you covered. You can go to the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, have the issues raised, the right that was violated. For instance, a colleague tackle the legal rights. So when it is autonomy that was violated, the Kenyan National Human Rights Commission will get you a lawyer. If it was an employer that violated this right, you can sue your employer, because initially you have the right to make your own decision. You have the right for confidentiality. You have the right to decide for yourself. So I'll use an example. Maybe let me use discrimination in our workplaces. You find that an employer may decide to discriminate you because you have a mental illness, you have mental issues. So the law legally allows you to take legal action for the mental health discrimination that you are experiencing at work. So the moment you realize that your employer is starting to behave in such a way that their conduct completely destroys the trust and the relationship you have with your employer, you are allowed to go to the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, defended by the Constitution, and legally sue your employer for violating your rights and discriminating you at your workplace. And also, we can liaise with the Kenya Board of Mental Health because they clearly know the legal rights of people with mental issues. And I saw a colleague talk of bipolar. You know, you cannot just tell someone that they cannot raise their opinion because they're bipolar. They have the right to they have the right to also be part of important conversations in the society. So once you realize that they have the right, you're being discriminated, they have the right to also be part of important conversations in the society. So once you realize that you're being discriminated. When you go to the Kenya Board of Mental Health Society, they defend the people whose rights have been violated, especially mental rights issues. When you go to the Kenya Board of Mental Health Society, we can also go to the local authorities because the local authorities, the police, they can maintain and address the violated issues. You find that also go to the local authorities. There's this layman language, huyu ni kichwa mbaya, asipande matatu. You know, your right has been violated because they do not know whatever you're going through. So they're discriminating you away from the society. So when such happens, you know, you cannot fight them. And you find that you can go to a local authority and state as to why there is conflict in a certain environment. So the local authority mainly will help us maintain and address the violated issues. So when you look at our legal forums, you know, you find that most people, when they are taken to the mental institution, someone is not given the right to decide for themselves. You are told that you're having mental issues, we are taking you to a certain institution and leaving you there. Let the doctors decide for themselves. But you are not given the freedom or the liberty to decide for yourself and have that informal admission. And the Constitution clearly states that we have the Act Cap 75. No person shall be received or detained for treatment in a mental hospital unless the act is followed and adhered to. So when you're taken to a legal mental institution and clearly you still have the right state to decide for yourself, then your rights has been violated. You can go to the Kenya Board of Mental Health, provide your medical certificates, your medical records, and they will decide that such a person still can decide for themselves and their rights has been violated. Therefore, you can be defended. They can provide you with a lawyer that can raise your issues, and you can be freed and released because clearly they are denying you the freedom to live freely in the society because they feel like you are a danger to the people living in a society. So I'd just summarize by saying that violation of the mental health rights is a crime, just as other crimes when you violate a Bill of Rights. We cannot end up saying that because I violated mental health rights, now hiyo ni crime kidogo. Because these people are equally important in the society like everyone else. So once you violate their rights, they are equally entitled to seek legal help. They will sue you. They will take you to court. And this is a crime that is liable by law. So I think I'll summarize and stop there so that I can give my colleagues to air their views on that topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Acheng. So, if in case your rights, your mental health rights have been violated, you have just heard from our speaker that the law will allow you to take a step. There's the legal pathway that you're supposed to take so that you can get justice. So let us not just sit down and assume, oh, I was depressed and so they had to they had to fire me. No, it is not supposed to happen like that. If you're violated, there's a legal pathway that you're supposed to take, and the justice that you deserve will be served unto you. So the next issue we're going to tackle is what the Constitution of Kenya says on mental health rights. What does the Constitution of Kenya say about these rights? What does it say? What do you need to do if in case you're violated? So I'll invite Whitney. Whitney, kindly take us through what the Constitution of Kenya says.
Thank you, Aja, for the presentation you've done. It was very clear. Thank you so much, Sharon, for this opportunity, and sorry for the poor connection that I've had. So, when you're talking about what is there in the Constitution, when it comes to issues of mental health, we talk about a mental health policy. And currently, we are using the 2015 to 2030 mental health policy that is at our disposal. If you just go to your Google and Google it, you will find it and download it. So when you're talking about the mental health policies that are there, these are mental health policy. It is an official statement that has been given by the health authorities that provide an overall direction for mental health by giving values, vision, principle, objectives, and establishing a broad model for action to achieve that vision. And for this vision to be achieved, there is something that is called a mental health plan and these are the strategies and activities that will help to implement and realize the vision and achieve its objective of the mental health policy that is in place. And it also specifies a budget, a time frame for each strategy to be achieved. And someone might ask, what are some of these policies that are in place that are supposed to be achieved? First and foremost, we know that our mental health leadership and governance, it addresses the role of the national and the county government in overseeing the various mental health programs that are there. And some of these mental health programs that are there include training, include building of infrastructures, include issues of financing, which brings me to the second thing of human resource, which is a second policy. And the human resource policy is concerned with our social and economic development, i.e., the mental health personnel are responsible for promoting, protecting, and improving the mental health of our country. This is also by educating, by training, and deploying of personnel in our various facilities and supporting us and supervising us. And another policy that is also in line is the policy of finance that has a priority in increasing our budgetary allocation. And I'm really glad that the other day a bill was passed and it was finally approved for the increment of the budget in the mental health department. Another priority in the financial policy thing, it is also establishing a budget for mental health services.
I think we've lost Whitney, but once she's back, she'll continue with her session. So we're going to the next session on the mental health rights and people living with disabilities. What does the mental, what
That
does
health
the law
insurance does
say?
not discriminate against
I think it could be an internet issue. Whitney, it's like Whitney is gone. Sharon, like Whitney is gone. Sharon.
Okay, we'll have
Okay,
Whitney once she's
we'll
back.
have Whitney once she's.
Yes, we're going to the
Yes,
next
we're going to the
session.
next
The next
and also
session,
organizing of
and
mental
also
health
organizing of
care in
mental health
disaster
care
and
in
emergencies,
disaster and
like we
emergencies,
saw
like
when
we
COVID
saw
19
when
struck. The issue of mental health really took an upscale, and that was really good. Another policy that is in place for mental health is the mental health products, whereby there's supposed to be adequate supply of medicines and medical equipment and technology.
I think we will proceed. Rita, you're going to take us to the next session, mental health rights and people living with disabilities. What does the law
What does the
say?
law say?
Yes, Rita.
Yes, Rita.
Target for mental health intervention. Uh, Another thing, as I summarize,
As I
there are
summarize,
some guiding
Excuse me, Rita.
there's some guiding
Rita,
there's some guiding there's some
excuse you.
guiding principles there's
Let's
some
have
guiding principles of our mental health policy framework, i.e.,
Yay.
our previous presenter
Hello.
tackled much on that topic. Hello. Okay, I was saying that our previous some of the guiding principles that we have under the mental health policy framework, it is mental health is a human right, and our previous speaker has really expounded a lot on that. Another thing is that mental health is an integral part of the health. That is why we usually say there is no health without mental health. And that is why we are called upon to be completely physically, mentally, and socially well. Another component, another guiding principle is the principle of equity, whereby the government is ensuring universal health coverage for all. And another thing is that when it comes to issues of mental health intervention, it's supposed to be people centered. People centered. This will ensure that the integrity of people is taken care of. And another thing, it is also there is a multi-sectoral approach in maximizing the achievement. That is why the government comes in, various organizations comes in. We have the health practitioners and the various strategies that have been put into place to ensure that our mental health well-being is taken care of in all aspects. So much has been said, and one thing that I can say is that in this existing policy that is there, much has been done, but there is still a very huge gap that is supposed to be done, i.e., in the issue of stocking medication in our public hospital. Another thing, it is the infrastructure in our public hospital. It is still very poor and really down. Thank you. Back to you, Sharon.
Karibu.
Thank you so much, Whitney. Hey, you had a lot of problems with the internet, but thank you. Finally, we got the information. That was great. So we're going to our next session on mental health rights and people living with disabilities. Yes, Rita, take us through this session.
Yeah, so my question was International Convention on Mental Health Right based on persons with disabilities. So the convention is hello,
Yes, Rita,
hello.
we can hear you. We can hear you, Rita.
Okay, let me continue. So there was one brave person who decided enough is enough. People with disabilities need to be involved in everything we do. They are human beings like us. So someone brave enough tabled the issue with the United Nations, and the first the first the first tabled issue was adopted on the 13th of December. That was in 2006 in the United Nations headquarters, which is in New York. And then it was opened for signatures. So like right now, people are doing, there was a time, the thing that we can relate with most is Azimio la Umoja, and then there was BBI. So when BBI was first tabled, they had to collect signatures. So it's the same thing that was done with the Bill of Rights for the people living with disabilities. So that person tabled it, and then it was adopted in the 13th December 2006, and then it was opened for signatures a year later. It was opened for signatures. So people signed it, and the way people were campaigning for BBI, it was the same thing. So people were really campaigning. It was not a kawaida, no. People are really campaigning. So yeah, so people campaigned, and the signatures were collected, and then what happened actually, what really struck about this convention is that this was the fastest and the highest signatories collected in the history of UN, actually. And on that very opening day of the signatures, they had the most of the signatures. Sio kama hii BBI yenye watu walikuwa wanasema oh BBI, everyone saw that this is something that we need. Everyone saw hii nayo hapana. Hawa watu ni wetu. Unaona? Like a family member that you cannot get rid of. Unasema huyu ni wetu sasa. So that's what happened. So the first day of the opening is the day that people got the most of the signatures. And I think it was a good thing, honestly, considering the year that thing was done, which was 2007. So after signatures being collected, there was a treaty that was made. So this treaty was made in the 21st century, of course, because 2007 was in the 21st century. So when it was made, the signatures were opened, the treaty was made by the regional integration organizations. So yes, so after that, a decade later, which is now between 2010 and 2020, what has been happening now with the Convention on Mental Health, right-based with persons on disability, is changing the views of people who are not living with disabilities towards the people living with disabilities. So what happens is they have to have campaigns and tell us sasa hawa watu ni kama sisi, ni venye tu mkono yake haiko sawa na yako, but ako tu kama wewe. So hizo vitu zenye anaweza fanya, zenye unaweza fanya vizuri, yeye pia anaweza fanya lakini in a different way. So what happened was changing the mindset of people who are not living with disabilities to accommodate our counterparts who are living with disabilities. That's why you find every standardized building that you come across must have a stamp where kuna stairs zenye watu normal wanaweza panda, alafu kuna ramp yenye watu wenye hawawezi tembea, watu wenye wako na wheelchair wanaweza enda nayo. At the same time, you find that in our parking lots, we have a parking space designated for only people with disabilities. So such things started to happen so that we could accommodate those people who are living with disabilities. None. To show that also these people, they have a space within us. We just have to accommodate them. There is space for every one of us. So that continued, the view on people with disabilities continued, and mindset started shifting. So earlier on, people view with disabilities kama wale watu, they are subjects, we should just be giving them charity. No. Now it changed, and then tukaambiwa watu with disability pia ni watu wakakamavu sana. They are very hard workers, they can work like you know. And so we started accommodating them. We see even people with disabilities in very high positions in the government. Yeah. So they were really accommodated, and and the view continued changing over time. So that is what has been happening between 2010 and 2020. So the convention intended human right to work as an instrument to oh God, I'm sorry for that. Si bom, poleni, si bom. So the convention intended human rights as an instrument with explicit social development dimension. So other than that, it categorized people living with disabilities as a broad a broad spectrum. It did not put it in one box and left it at that. Because if you look at us today, people living with disabilities are not the same. They are not the same. Just like human beings, there are people who are brown, there are people who are dark. So people living with disabilities, they have different disabilities. So it is wide. And that is why you find that this convention, continues to reaffirm that all persons with all types of disabilities must enjoy all the human rights and fundamental freedoms. They must, all of them. Haijalishi mtu ni kiziwi ama hana mkono ama hana mguu, all of them need to enjoy all the human right fundamental freedoms. And then now you find that also during that 21st century, there was a clarification that qualified how all categories of human rights apply to all persons living with disability. So you find that there were adaptations. There were adaptations where people living with disabilities had to exercise all their human rights. So you find they could now vote. They had a way of voting, and not just that. They could do a lot of things that they were not able to do before. So this international convention was done in 8 sessions. It was done in 8 sessions. People met, people discussed, and the first treaty was negotiated. Just like that, the treaty was made, and people who living with disability were included. And I really want to say that this was a very good move. And the fact that people acted in haste to include those people who are living with disabilities was a very good thing, because watu wanapenda kujivuta when something good wants to happen. Watu wanapenda kujivuta for no reason. I never understand why that happens. So just that one brave person mwenye aliamka siku moja akasema no, this needs to change, and tabled that thing to the UN, to the United Nations headquarters in New York, and opened it for signatures, I think was a very brave person. So with all that I have said, what I think needs to continue happening is more and more inclusivity for people who are living with disability. And also, there needs to be even a more broad spectrum of people living with disabilities. So tunafaa kuendelea, all buildings that we are having today, I think people should right now when you're doing a building, you have to go to the correct authorities. You have to go to public works. There are signatures that have to be approved. So I feel for every building that is being built needs to accommodate such people. Maybe someone is not working. Yeah. So if someone is not working and there is a building somewhere that is being built, they need to think of that person who is living with disability. Meaning there will be ramps instead of stairs for those people who are living with disabilities. Meaning that there will be parking spaces reserved for people with disability. Meaning that there will be a lot of, sasa tuseme for example mtu hata ameenda court kuhusu a case with a person who is having a disability. I feel that we should accommodate them more, such that they are heard even when they go to the court of law. They can even represent themselves. They can represent others. So I feel whatever started in 2006 should also continue going on, because it was such a beautiful thing. I don't know what you guys think about it, but personally, I think it was a very good thing. And you know what? The fact that this happened means that we are able to accept people with disability with a lot of ease. Imagine huko kitambo kabisa, yani people with disabilities were just in another mental space. Sasa unaona hata mtu akizaa mtoto mwenye ako na a certain kind of disability anamficha kwa sababu the parent is ashamed of the child. The child does not understand what is happening. So this bill or this convention, I think it really helped in easing the mental health of people living with disabilities. Kwa sababu they are accepted, they can now walk around. And by the way, siku hizi hakuna kuongelesha tu watu vibaya vibaya. You can be sued for talking bad about people with disabilities. By the way, you can. It's something that can happen. You just can't go around bad mouthing people or talking bad about the features they have. No, it's something that is punishable by law. So I feel this convention was the very right thing that people living with disabilities needed to lift that mental health issue that they had been dealing with for a very long time. So that is all I have for today. My question was a bit rigid today, so I don't have a lot to say. Asanteni.
Thank you so much, Rita. So, just as Rita has
Yeah.
said, the people living with disability also have rights. Our Constitution of Kenya is all inclusive and it also serves the people living with disability. So, don't be shy as a person living with disability when your mental health rights are infringed. And for those who provide services, those who provide mental health services, they should be all inclusive. For instance, if you have therapy sessions or if you have counseling sessions, you should make it all inclusive so that even those people living with disability are
Pilipili
able
hakuna?
to access the services. And this goes
Pilipili
to the
imeisha.
organizations and, uh,
Eh.
and those providing these services. So that was our today's session. We've seen what the law says about mental health rights. What are you supposed to do? What are you not supposed to do? These people have rights. What are their rights? What are we supposed to do to them? And what we are not supposed to do to them. I believe this was very helpful for us. Personally, I have just realized, remember we've been treating these people as I'd call it outcasts. I don't know, because the other day I was in a matatu and then I was seated next to the driver. Then somebody comes and they ask the driver, unaweza nipeleka Kibos? I think he was going to Kibos. So, unaweza nipeleka Kibos? So this guy, I don't know, I'm not sure if he had a mental problem, but the way he was dressed, he was not decently dressed according to the driver. And the driver was like, no, 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 I'm not going to that direction. And the driver refused. And then he's like, hey, how can I carry such a person? You see. So we've been doing a lot of things that are wrong. These people, they're also human beings like us. Once in their lifetime, they were just as okay as we are. Maybe just something happened, maybe just there was an event that happened in their life that changed everything. And it doesn't mean that today, if somebody is okay, tomorrow they cannot be like them. And God forbid, if tomorrow you happen to be like them, how would you want to be treated? Would you want your rights to be infringed? Would you want to be accommodated by the community? Would you want to be given an opportunity to speak? And it is so sad when you walk into the streets, those with adverse mental ill health, those who walk in town in the markets, they don't know who they are. You realize you find a lady who is mentally ill, pregnant. Nobody is doing anything, and you wonder how did they get to this situation? How did they get to this situation? And we've been taken through what the law says. As somebody who is next to these people suffering from mental health, as somebody who is next to this lady who has been whose rights have been infringed, what are you doing? What is your responsibility? Are you just sitting there and watching these people suffer? Now because they're not themselves, those people are like that, they're not even if somebody has money, they are not even allowed to buy something. They're not allowed to buy something. And there was my friend who was selling clothes, and the other day I was at her place and she's like, you're not just supposed to look at people just like that. Because one day there's a lady who came here who was mentally ill, and she asked me, how much do you sell this dress? I told her the amount. And the next time she came back, she had money, she bought that was a customer, that was a client. And what if this lady would have not talked to her because of her mental situation? So I think we are doing so bad, and we are not giving these people with mental ill conditions an opportunity and even the environment to be better, because we are infringing on their rights. Maybe they're trying very hard, they're trying to recover. Somebody's at work, they are depressed, they're trying to catch up, and then now the boss is like, you're fired because you are unfit to serve this position. So as people who are next to these people who are trying to recover from mental illnesses, we have a lot of duties to do. We are supposed to stand by them. If you see somebody's right being infringed, you should talk. Don't just keep quiet. Just speak up for them, because maybe at that particular time they're not able to speak up for themselves. And what are we doing? So if I just down there and not do anything, you see, I am just the same as this person who is infringing on their rights. So I'm giving this opportunity to our speakers to give us their last comments on this as we wrap up this session. The parting shots. Yes, you're welcome. I'll start with Achen.
Okay, I hope I'm still loud and clear.
Yeah, you are.
I think to summarize, I would say it starts with us. It starts with you as an individual, because if someone has a mental disorder, they might not know the rights they have. So it is upon us to implement these legal rights they have. It is upon us to fight for them. So before we talk about what the society is doing, let us look at what we are doing, what you are doing as an individual, what we're doing at an individual level. So let's stop this blaming of the society and everything and work upon it by ourselves. If you see a person working with how do you call them? The crutches. It's upon you, being on the front seat of a matatu, to let them have the front seat and go to the back seat. There is no legal document that the conductor will provide an issue at on legal rights. It's upon you to think about it and let them enjoy the privileges they're supposed to have. Thank you.
And before you leave, Achieng, there's a question directed to you. It says, what does the
Okay.
Constitution of Kenya say about the mental health right of a convictee of murder before being sentenced? So maybe you just ponder upon that. I'll get back to you once you have the answers. So on our parting shot, I'm going to invite Beverly Nicole for her last parting shot.
Thank you, Sharon. So what I'd say again is just to encourage us to be conscious of each other, to be conscious of what just be kind. Basically be kind, because for mental health there's no banner or something that writes on your back that I'm suffering from mental health. Sometimes I think one of the most and the biggest people suffering, you never can even tell until we start writing RIP and the sorts on social media, until we start saying, oh, you are my friend, I wish I knew, I wish I did this 1 2 3. Yeah, and we are very good at that. So what I'd say is, let us be conscious of our neighbors, let us be conscious of our friends, our family members, let us keep checking up on each other, let us encourage each other, and by all means, let us not set extremely high standards in society that are not realistic and very hard to meet, so that we do not stress each other. And this especially goes at this period of time where we have the results that have been released. Let us not stress our sisters, our brothers, our children, our neighbors with unrealistic expectations. So yeah, let's be mindful and let's always check up on each other. Thank you, Sharon. Back to you.
Thank you so much, everybody. And Whitney, what is your last message to our listeners on mental health?
There is no health without mental health. Let us be so cognizant about our well-being, socially, economically, emotionally, physically, socially, because all this is an entire wholesome thing. And if you are not okay physically, you cannot be well mentally. If you're not okay emotionally, you cannot be okay mentally. So it's important for all of us to take care of ourselves, self-care, self-love, take a break, breathe, and it's okay not to be okay. Thank you.
Yes, Achieng, do you have an answer to the question that was directed to you?
Yes. So when you're convicted of murder, you have the right to go get tested and provide the health records. So if your health records state that you did the crime when you were in an unstable mind, then you probably can get a defense. So you have the right to go and follow the procedures and provide the documents that you went through a mental health examination. So this can be used during your defense. Yeah, I think that's what I can say the Constitution gives us when it concerns the convictee.
Okay, thank you so much, Achien, for tackling that question. And I will not fail to recognize our host. We thank you so much for hosting us, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about your company. Yes, welcome.
Uh, Good evening once more. My name is Marcellus, as I said before, and are you able to get me?
Yes, we're getting you clearly.
Yes, I run a company called Manata Productions. We are based in Kisumu, airport area, just opposite the airport. That's where our office is, a market called Riat. We do a variety of activities, one of them being the one we are currently doing. So this one we do to the corporate society. We can do it to maybe if you have a meeting at affordable cost. So don't shy off. Our numbers are running down there, are scrolling down there. You can reach us when you are ready, when you are ready, or when you are thinking of involving us in your events. We also do videography for all events, be it wedding, be it funeral. We also do photography. We do YouTube and Facebook live streaming, both for weddings and funerals. So we do a variety of events, and we also partner with a company called Shama Creations. Shama Creations is a company based in Kisumu as well. They do events. They have tents and chairs. They organize for they can organize for a funeral. They organize for you a funeral. You can just present them with the necessities. Then they organize for you the whole event. They can do. They can also do weddings and all those events. So we are so grateful to partner today with with the with the HOVUC, that is the Hope for Vulnerable Communities. Actually, I came to learn about this uh, organization over the internet, Facebook, WhatsApp, then Facebook, and I decided, I purposed that we have to partner. That's why I reached one of you, and we agreed that we are going to do this today. So I know that in the coming days we will still talk, and we will have more of this, because the main aim here is to reach the community, because we realize that in the community we have a big percentage who do not understand some of these things we are talking about here. And actually, some of these things you have said here, if one walks into a facility and a private facility and asks for such services, I think the cost will be so high. So if you do it here freely for the people of Kenya to and people of the world, actually you are reaching the whole world to actually grasp from what you have, then I think it's a great deal. So for now, I think I'll stop there. Over to you, Sharon.
Thank you so much, Marcelo. And I personally recommend Manatha Production. They do a very, very clean work. I have from experience. This is from experience. They do a very, very good work. You can reach them for their services, and yeah, you can reach them for their services, and they will never disappoint you. And their cost is very, very favorable. So thank you all our listeners for coming. Thank you in a special way our speakers, our guest speakers. We thank you for coming here to help us speak about this. And we also thank our partners in a special way. Let us meet next week, same time, same place, and see you all. Thank you.